We're going to Cody Sperber's, the Clever...
In 2 miles, make a U-turn.
To Cody Sperber's office, Clever Investor. He's one of the top at flipping houses. And Siri, we're trying to do this interview. So we're heading to Clevy.
Please follow the road.
Siri,
Miles.
you're distracting me. I feel like he has a lot of knowledge that can help millennials that want to get into real estate, flipping, and investing. So we're gonna go gain some knowledge, and of course the number one focus is to add value to you guys. So I'm glad you guys are along for the ride. Cody Sperber, founder of cleverinvestor.com, father, son, multi-millionaire investor.
Yeah, I'll do it with you. Ready? Who? Whoever, please.
That I really have respect for what he's built. So I'm excited today to dive in to how to not just maximize real estate, how to find a mentor, but how to really live a world-class lifestyle and cut your learning curve in half. So I'm excited to be here, man. When you're new and you're young, by the way, hold that thought. How monomaniacal he is, how detailed, how aesthetic he is in his business. I saw a lot of his behind the scenes stuff is very admirable. I've interviewed a lot of successful people, and the attention to detail, and I'm assuming you're proud of that, because a lot of business owners are messy. Don't know the numbers, they're not aesthetic, they're not relating to millennials, which is what you're doing. And I'm a millennial, and this blows my mind. So much respect for that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. No, and I appreciate that, and it's something I obsess over. You know?
I can tell.
And when you get there, it becomes just part of the culture of your business, and they see you do it, and all of a sudden, I have 70 plus people that work here just at this one business. But here's some stats, and this is a gut punch for a lot of people. The average American makes just a little over $52,000. It's $52,250 a year, but they save less than $1,000 a year. If you are an average American and you save money all the way up until retirement, you get to retirement age, you're gonna have about $60,000 saved if you're the average American. If you're a super saver, it's $95,000. Studies have been done, and they asked a bunch of people, what do you think like wealth is, in America? Like, when do you hit like wealthy? On average, people would say about $2.4 million would be considered wealthy in America. So now my kids, they come up to me and they're like, hey Dad, I want this new, can I buy gems in the app store? I have a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old right now. Amazing age, such a beautiful thing. But when they want something, instead of reacting and saying something out loud that is negative, might form their philosophy, I immediately pivot and I use that as an opportunity. I just say, I'm so excited for you that you want this thing. Now let's sit down and talk about why you want it, what we can do to get you there, and because you're 9, I'll form a contract with you.
Love it.
And you can pay me a little bit of interest, and I'll give you chores, and I'll create a game plan with you on how to create the money, right? So that way you can get what you want.
They learn how to earn it.
They learn how to earn it, because when they get out of school, right, when they're an adult, their banker is not going to give 2 shits about their grades, right? They only care about their income statement, their balance sheet, the things that we don't think about as kids.
And aren't taught.
And are not taught.
Sadly, by the school system.
If you don't understand how all that works together and why the poor remain poor, middle class gets stuck in the rat race, and how the very few, the 1%ers, actually break through, until you can even see it from that fundamental of a level, how are you ever going to get at it?
It's huge. And that's why I really connect with the type of people like you that can share that, because there's a lot of kids that don't have the guidance that might see this and say, wow, I need to change my perspective. I need to change my ways. You actually went down the path. You wanted to be a teacher. Yeah. And then you realize, which a lot of people do, they make 30 to 50 a year?
Yeah, it was.
And you're like, I don't know if I could have the lifestyle I want and the freedom I want being a teacher. I love teaching, which shows that you like helping people, but making 50 grand a year is not gonna get you a lifestyle. So you obviously wanted to be a teacher. Then you went into, I think you were an accountant. What were you doing after you?
Bookkeeper.
Bookkeeper.
Yeah.
So you went into, obviously you want to be a teacher, didn't do that.
Only because it was the only job I can get.
So you settled.
Well,
Be honest.
Yeah, so here
He's admitting it, he settled.
Here's what happened. I got excited about real estate, right? And I got excited about real estate by pure luck. I was just getting out of the military, just getting ready to go to school, right?
And you don't have much guidance out of the military. People are lost sometimes.
I wish I could say that that I was more mature and more prepared, but I used my military time to travel the world and just have fun, and I wasn't ready for college. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And when you get out of the military, they stamp your ID, and it's kind of like getting out of prison.
Wow.
You walk out those gates and they're like,
See ya.
see ya. And you go from a world of like to structure and systems and processes and support to you're like, ugh. And so I was gonna go to school, right, to be a marine biologist. That was my game plan. Isn't that weird? But in the military, I
don't know if I could picture you as a
No, I couldn't
right
do
now. I just can't even get it in my head.
But seasick all the time. So I kind of was leaning, okay, so if I'm not a marine biologist, because I love animals, I wanted to help out in some way, let's go to community college and then to real college and and get a teaching degree. And while I was starting to take classes, I went and talked to a teacher, one of the professors, and I said, I know this is a personal question, but how much do you make? And he was like, 48, 50 grand a year.
That's higher end.
And I was just like, that's it? Like, I'm pretty sure I was getting close to that in the military. It's like, how am I going to survive off of this and live the lifestyle I want? So that was starting to go out. And at that moment in my life, I had a chance lunch encounter with a friend of mine named Jeremy, who just happened to pull up in a brand new Mercedes. And months earlier, I was hanging out with Jeremy, like he didn't have any money. And all of a sudden, he had this brand new Mercedes. I'm like, what gives, dude? How did you do that? He goes, I flipped a house and I made 80 grand. And I'm like, dude, you don't have any money.
You're not even thinking like that.
No connection. And he's like, I flipped a house, I made 80 grand. And I'm like, okay, how did you do that? And he literally penciled it out on a napkin. And I stood over top, I took that napkin home with me, and I stood over top of it. And it blew my mind that there was this whole world of creative real estate investing that I didn't know existed. I thought of real estate very traditionally, right? Real estate agents.
So it wasn't even in your mind. It wasn't even in your repertoire of thoughts.
No, and because I didn't have a good relationship with money, I tell a lot of, I got millions of social media followers, and when I have conversations about money with them and stuff, I say, here in America at least, it's so unbelievably easy to get rich. You start realizing I'm playing too small. I'm not putting myself in the right situations. I'm not self-educating hard enough. I'm not investing early enough. All the things that you and your followers, we need to talk about. But it blew my mind that this world was out there and nobody taught me it. I was pissed, right? And so I kind of started doing what everybody does when they first hear about no money down real estate. Here I am. I look like I'm 10 years old, right? I'm young. I have no connections, no construction knowledge. I don't know anything about real estate. I don't speak the language, have no money. I was starting with nothing. But I got excited about the potential because I remember going back to when I was a kid, the wealthiest people in my hometown were
And you now had an example from your friend. You actually had a real example.
And he did it.
And he made money.
And you say to yourself when you hear things like that, if that guy can do it, so can I. And I'm going to maybe say something that's a little aggressive to some people. Probably not. If you're watching this, you're not going you're going to know that this is the truth. But not everybody is capable of being successful. They don't want it bad enough. They're not going to do what it takes. They're not going to fight hard enough.
I think sadly, Cody, it's a society standard to settle. So if someone settles, they're like, well, everyone else is doing it. I'll just do it too. It's like a standard now. Sadly, not in our world, but in society's world, a lot of people settle for what they can.
People are scared of judgment. Not settled, right? You were uncomfortable. You were hyperactive. You had ADHD as a kid, or you always were kind of playing in the gray area. You always pushed boundaries. You were a rule breaker a little bit. When you grow up, you just can't stand the thought of doing the same thing every day for the rest of your life, right? If you're watching this right now, you already know internally if you have that weird it factor of wanting something more.
Almost unemployable in a way.
It's that deep belief. Even though I looked young, I had nothing, I didn't know. I went out and I started buying courses, books, tapes. There was no social media, so I was going to seminars, right?
They were selling on stage.
They were selling on stage, and I was a buyer, right? And I was going into heavy credit card debt because I didn't care. Because where I was, I got to a point where I was so pissed at my current situation of being broke, and I just had it figured out, right? My girlfriend, who's now my wife, at the beginning was so supportive. 9 months later, she's like, go get a job, dude. You've got to get a resume. You've got to get a job.
Even people close to you were
Everybody was putting pressure on me. And that little voice inside became so freaking loud. I got put in a resume, and the only guy hiring was looking for a bookkeeper. And I lied on my resume and said I know how to do books because I needed a job, and I had bills, and never done books in my life. Had no idea what a bookkeeper was. Showed up at the interview, lied through my teeth. Can you do it? Yeah. He's like, start tomorrow.
You already had some persuasion then.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, let's do this. Showed up. I studied all night long trying to figure out how to do books. But the guy that I was doing books for was a real estate developer. Wow. And there was some small part of me that was like, hey, I'm kind of still in the world.
Teach
right?
me.
You're only kind of giving up. So I went to do his books, and I made it about a month and a half before I hated everything about my job, everything about my life. This guy was a complete jerk.
Wow.
But I'm seeing the money. I'm doing his books. And I'm seeing the money come in, I'm seeing the money go out, I'm seeing the numerous, cars he's buying. He used to fly this guy in from Japan to build custom suits for him. He was making millions a month. You realize, once again, if this guy can do it, you can do it. There had to be something I was missing, that the reason he figured it out and I couldn't. And right around that time, something really awesome happened. And it was a tragedy. It was my parents were going through a really tough time. My dad got fired, and you don't really think about age discrimination, but he was going through a tough time financially, emotionally. He couldn't find another job. Watching him deteriorate right through my eyes, right before my eyes. And I'm a bookkeeper. I'm making $37,000 to $38,000 a year. I could barely keep my bills paid, and I couldn't really financially help them in closure. And I got to a point where it felt so wrong that my hero, my dad, I couldn't even do anything for, because I was financially broke. No money in savings, credit card debt, and I'm barely making ends meet. And it was at that moment in time where I finally stepped back, and I got so pissed off.
Hunger built up.
It just was like, and sometimes that's what it takes. You gotta have your back against the wall to finally get to a place where mentally I was ready to make a real change. And that's when I decided, all right, my friend was asking me to go to a real estate seminar.
You're like, again?
I'm like, no way, not again. But it was right timing. And he was like, listen, it's in San Francisco. Just come to this thing with me. If nothing more, it'll be an awesome vacation with a good friend. But I'm telling you, this guy that we're going to see is the realest deal in real estate. And if you ever wanted to get back in it, this would be your opportunity. And so I went. I don't know why I went.
Well, your back was against the wall.
Back was against the wall. I'm pissed off, financial problems at home. And I walked into that seminar. It was an old timer named Jack Miller. And Jack passed away a few years ago. But I walked in, and it was like I knew I was in a room full of players.
So it was one of the ones that was a real deal. All the other seminars were kind of like some of the BS.
Well, it was a lot of sales. It was a really great sales environment, but there was no real actual meat and potatoes.
It's a lot of, it still happens today. So finally you go to like a seminar that you feel, I don't want to say you feel at home, but you kind of feel at home. Yeah. These are real like entrepreneurs that are making money and doing well.
It was literally just unbelievable content and value from the beginning. There was about 400 or 500 people in the audience. And I saw all the infomercial gurus frantically taking notes. I saw all the people that I bought courses from frantically taking notes. And I'm like, who is this guy that everybody's geeking out over? And so I sat there that first day and I watched Jack talk. And he was the greatest storyteller, such an amazing storyteller. And I just knew, like, man, if there was ever an opportunity to find a real mentor, it was in that room. And I opened up my heart, opened up my mind. I was just to have somebody show me the right way of doing it. If I was going to put my ego aside, I wasn't going to try to do it my way anymore. Happened to be at lunch, and I'm sitting there getting ready to order, and there's an old guy sitting at the bar, Adidas sweatpants, and an old wrinkly polo shirt, and a crazy-haired old guy. And so we start talking, and this guy's been in real estate for like 30 years. And he's done every type of real estate under the sun. And his big thing was financial literacy, tax-free investing, wealth creation, cash flow. And I'm sitting there talking to him, and we're rapping, and I find out that he has a winter home here in Arizona. And I'm like, listen, you're probably the most successful guy I've ever talked to that actually knew real estate. Would you mentor me? And by the time we were done with the conversation, I hired him to be my first mentor. He showed me things I couldn't learn in books. The real deal stuff, the stuff that only people that sat down.
And he was living it.
He was.
It wasn't someone talking about it. He was living it.
He lived it. He was already on the other end. He had indestructible wealth, and he understood how to look at a deal and find those hidden profit centers. He called it transactional engineering. I wanted to know that. Like, that was the stuff I was searching for so desperately. Like, where to find the best deals, how to tell a deal from a dud, how to construct a deal creatively where I don't have to come out of pocket any money. You know, where do I find buyers and sellers? How do I put all this stuff together? Where do I get my team? All of those questions I was struggling with. He had it all modeled out, and he knew how to take me on that journey where I discovered the breakthrough. Because when you're learning something like real estate, where it's complicated, there's all these moving pieces, somebody could talk to you all day long and tell you, and that's the problem with the courses. They were rapid firing information at me. It felt like I was drinking from a fire hose. I couldn't digest it, internalize it, and have the aha moment that I was looking for, the breakthrough. I was so focused on getting a deal before my credit card bill was due. I want to share this lesson. I want you guys to conceptualize. So you finally find the right mentor. The biggest breakthrough in my life was from a mentor too. Same thing. Just someone that had the results I wanted, that gave me such a different perspective and the knowledge. So you finally got the knowledge, all this stuff that was overwhelming you from the courses, you finally had someone to simplify it. And as you were simplifying it and learning it, you finally, not just you weren't overwhelmed, but now you're ready to take some big action because you had clarity. I had
what it was?
Yes, and I had support.
Clarity and support.
I had the support that I needed and desired as somebody who's, there are power principles out there, right? Leverage is one of them, right? Leverage is power. I'm gonna leverage your relationships with your followers, right? And I'm gonna tap into a millennial base that I want to connect with, but I'm not a millennial, right? You're gonna leverage my knowledge and my information for this, right? Leverage is power. We do it all the time. And in real estate, we're always leveraging relationships, money, right? And all that stuff. That's one of the biggest power principles out there. But also, anticipation is also power. And when you're learning something new like real estate, if you can anticipate what to say next, what to do next, where to take that relationship from a psychological level, and how to get people to positively influence people to get to that yes, where everybody feels like, I got a win-win out of this, like this is a good deal for all parties. Until you can anticipate, the confidence isn't there, the feeling, the internals aren't there, and then what you don't do is, or what you should do, you don't do. You start to neglect to pick up the phone and make the call. You start to neglect to go on the appointment. You neglect to go out there and do your networking. Like, the fear prevents you from doing it. I can't anticipate where to go. And so he was working with me. We used to go to his house, and for hours and hours and hours, he didn't work with me on transactional engineering and stuff in the beginning. He worked on me on this, right? Just understanding power principles, understanding, how to have a good relationship with money, understanding how wealthy people think about income, cash flow, assets, liabilities, all the things
so
that...
it wasn't just real estate stuff.
Oh, dude, a good
That's
mentor
amazing.
is so much more
It wasn't
than
just
what
real
you're
estate.
trying to learn, right? The tactical is actually quite simple in real estate.
People
It's,
like to
it's not
complicate
easy
it.
to do it, but it's simple to do. They complicate it, and because of fear, because they haven't created the beginning part of it, which is the mindset, which is the most important real estate out there, is this real estate, they can't even get to that place where they're consistently doing the right activities so they can build a business. I've had students who are brand new come in and through on exercise number 1, pick up the phone, call some Craigslist leads, and make some phone calls and try and find deals, and they get a deal on the second call. And they're like, real estate is easy. I just make 10 grand or 20 grand. It's like, I'm almost like mad that they got success that early on, because I know the reality is that's not normal, right? Consistency over long periods of time, and follow-up sequences and systems and processes, and how you talk to people, and all that stuff goes into it. They experience, think that's how the world is. And on the flip side, I've had other people tried for 6 months relentlessly and nothing. Then all of a sudden, 6 months in one day of being consistent, bang, they hit their first deal. All their hopes and dreams, their beliefs become real. And the distance between deal 0 and deal 1 was 6 months in one day, but the distance between deal 1 and deal 2 was 2 weeks. And the distance between 2 and 3 was 1 week. And all of a sudden it starts clicking, right? Because they put in the work to create the habits to get there. Whereas the person that found success on the front end that doesn't have that yet still has to go through all that creation.
The roadblocks and challenges.
And all those
test
things.
themselves to see if they deserve it. Then there's people at month 5, when they're going to blow up in month 6, that quit.
They quit.
Because all their family says, don't do that. Interesting. So what I want to do is, I've learned the last hour or two hanging with Cody. He's very tactical, and he has this gift, uncanny gift, and I think you have this gift, of simplifying things to where you can really understand it. Because there's a lot of gurus that complicate real estate. So if there's a lot of millennials that want to get into real estate, they want to start their own business, they want to become a brand, they want to crush it and get to that 5%, but they don't have the money, they don't have the know-how, the knowledge. So can we map? You want to map? Let's map something out.
Dude, I'm so excited about this new TV.
He's a mapper.
I'm a mapper. But this is my new toy, right? I just got this. So I'm for an educator, somebody who like geeks out on like teaching other people, like this to me is like my favorite.
You can see his smile. He's in heaven right now.
Oh yeah. Let's just think about traditional real estate versus creative real estate. Traditional real estate, the old way of doing it, has made a lot of millionaires, right? It's proven, it works, and it's the path of least resistance. So a lot of people think about traditional real estate. They get a real estate agent, that real estate agent goes out and finds a deal, and they do most of the heavy lifting, right? They source the deal, they analyze the deal, they fill out the paperwork if you want to buy the deal. Pretty much your only part in the equation is say yes to the deal and then fund the deal, right? And go. The challenge with that model, especially nowadays, is one, that is the path of least resistance. So everybody goes and tries to do that on some level. And I still get deals from real estate agents. They're one of my favorite deal sources. But if you want to make bigger profits, or if you want to get into the business where you don't have to go to a bank, leverage your credit, or raise a bunch of money and go the traditional route, there's a whole nother world of creative real estate investing out there. And this is what my friend penciled out on a napkin. So the way you got to think about it is like this. So right now, in just about every market, there's a few exceptions, like downtown San Francisco, where like a shack is millions of dollars. We're not going to be doing creative real estate investing or quick flipping in a really expensive area like San Francisco, where the homeowners are very educated, and there's no real need to ever sell at a discount, and it's just too expensive to even buy a house for cash. But in most markets, even in competitive ones like Arizona, right, where there's lots of market activity, this model works. So big towns, small cities, there's really no excuse once you understand how to do this. So right now, there are people in just about every area out there that are going through some challenge in their life, right? And we call these people motivated sellers. And there's a lot of reasons why somebody would be motivated. So maybe they're going through a divorce. Maybe they lost their job. Maybe they have medical issues. Maybe there's issues with the property itself. Maybe they have foundation issues or fire damage or flood damage, or they just have the ugly house on the street, right? And people become motivated like overnight, right? They could be like normal, lost your job or got a new job, have to relocate, or you want to retire and you're sick and tired of your rental portfolio and your tenant destroys the house and moves out overnight, and you're sitting there looking at it and you're like, I'm 75 years old, I don't want to deal with this rental property anymore. It's kind of the dog in my portfolio. When I pass away, my kids don't want anything to do with real estate, so I'm just going to start unloading my problem properties that I don't want to go back in and fix and re-rent out. Tons of reasons is what I'm getting at, that somebody will become motivated. And so here's you, right? And let's just say you're Cody 13, 14 years ago. You're a millennial. You're somebody who's like, man, I know wealth is created through real estate, but how do I get involved? I don't have any money. I don't have any credit. I don't have any construction knowledge. I don't have a real estate license. How do I do it? This is how. So right now, I could teach you, or there are techniques out there that you can learn where you, okay, over here, can learn how to market, right, to generate leads of motivated sellers, right? These sellers will raise their hand and say, hey, I need to sell my house, and I have to make a choice when I sell it. I can sell it the traditional way, right? Which is I go hire a real estate agent, I hold open houses, I fix the property up, I wait on average of 90 days to get an offer. I gotta pay for utilities and maybe make repairs, and there's gonna be negotiation. I don't know if I can afford to wait 90 days, 120 days to get a good offer to come in the door. They can go the traditional route, or you can market, right, to let them know that you will come in and pay cash for their property. You'll close on a date of their choice. You won't have to make any repairs, and that it'll be the simplest, fastest transaction that they've ever done. And by the way, they don't have to wait a long time to get the money. We could get the money in, let's say, 2 weeks or 10 days, something like that. I want to sell, and I want to sell quickly. So what you do is you use negotiation techniques that we teach you to learn how to put their property under contract, right? So you fill out a contract, if I can spell that, right? This is just a purchase and sale agreement to buy their house, okay? So let's say that they agree to sell you the house. Let's say this house is worth $150,000, right? That's what it's worth. But the problem is the house is like beat up, right? It needs a bunch of work, right? Let's just say it needs $25,000 in repairs, rehab. There's closing costs. There's all kinds of expenses when you sell a house. Let's say it's worth $150,000, but it needs a bunch of work. Well, you negotiate with them to put their house under contract for say $90,000. right? Why would somebody accept $90,000 for their property? Well, one, it needs a bunch of work, and two, they're motivated. They're a motivated seller. They need to sell and get their cash quickly, all right? So you put it under contract for $90,000. When you put a house under contract, you're not actually buying it yet. You're controlling it at this point, right? And the way our real estate laws and our contract laws are created here in the United States, when you put a property under contract to purchase, you now control what's called equitable interest in that property. You haven't closed on it yet. You haven't done anything yet. You haven't paid the money yet, but you have the paperwork that says on a certain date you will close on it and pay for it. So we negotiate, we put it under contract for $90,000, and then guess what you do at that point? Now that you control a piece of real estate, you mark it again to find the person that's actually going to put up the money, okay, are called cash buyers. Who's a cash buyer? Well, other landlords that are looking for deals, they're cash buyers. Rehabbers, right? People that buy, fix, and sell properties, they're cash buyers. Now, typically, cash buyers, they don't have time. They're busy doing their projects, right? They don't have time to go hunt down this motivated seller, negotiate with them, and find good deals. You, okay, and we call you a quick flipper, right? It's also known as wholesaling. So you did all the heavy lifting. You sourced the deal, you negotiated the deal, you put it under contract, you served it up on a silver platter, and this landlord or this rehabber, right, and through your marketing says, hey, I'm looking for a deal in that area. What will you sell it to me for? And you go, hey, listen, cash buyer, what I'll do is I'll give you a deal that's worth $150,000. It needs some work, but I'll sell it to you for, let's say, $100,000. Okay? Is that a good deal for you? You buy it for 100, you put 25 into it, you sell it, you make 25K or whatever those numbers are. Or she says, sure, I'll buy it. So essentially what you do is one of two things. You can assign your contract, your contractual rights, you can assign it over to the cash buyer. Okay, that's one way of doing it. And another way of doing it is called a double close. Now, I don't want to get too much into the technical side of this, but there are different ways of closing out this transaction, okay, so you can make the money. Now, in this example, let's just say I assign it, okay, which means they're going to step into my shoes and I'm going to step into their shoes. So let's say in this scenario, we're going to assign it. And that essentially means they're going to step into my contract, okay, and I am going to step out, and when this cash buyer, remember, I pitched on the front end to the seller, hey, I'm going to close with all cash. That doesn't mean it's going to be my cash. It just means somebody with cash is going to actually close on this. We don't need financing to do the deal.
Hold on, go back. Please say that again.
Yeah, so
everyone thinks they need money.
Remember what I said earlier? What equals power? Leverage. Leverage equals power. So we're going to leverage the cash buyer's cash, right? They have more money than time. We have more time than money. So what we're going to do is we're going to use their cash to actually close on this deal. From the seller's point of view, they're going to close on the date we promised them. They're going to get a check, right? We're going to pay whatever's owed on it. But what's the difference between the $100,000 that this cash buyer is buying it for and the $90,000 we promised the motivated seller? $10K. And that's our profit for putting this deal together. And guess what? If you do it the right way, using the right paperwork, you don't need a real estate license because you have an equitable interest in the property, right? You don't need to know anything about construction because you're not the one doing the work. This person is, all right? So all of a sudden, through creative methods, you generated 10K. So in the beginning, I was like, dang, dude, I'm a bookkeeper, right? Like, how many deals do I really need to do to quit my job, right? I was making probably maybe like a few grand a month as a bookkeeper, maybe $3,000 a month. I'm like, so I set a goal, right? My goal was if I make $4,000 a month consistently for 90 days as a wholesaler, as a real estate investor, then I quit my job. So I went out there and went on a mission doing this exact same thing, right? And on my first big wholesale deal, I didn't make 10K. My first one, I made 40K. And all of a sudden, my whole life changed. I made more money in one deal than I did as an entire year as a bookkeeper, and it allowed me to do what I've been wanting to do for a long time, which is help my parents instantly, cut a check to solve a problem, right? Because that's really what we want. Most people don't love real estate. Most people don't love houses. I'm kind of that weird guy that like goes and whispers to houses, but most people don't. Most people get into real estate because of what the money can do for their lifestyle.
So that was amazing. I appreciate that. That got me fired up and excited. And I've done real estate for quite some time. My mom's in it, so I love real estate. So let's fast forward. Now you've done 1,400 plus flips. I think you've lost count, right? You're a numbers guy. You sure you don't know the exact number? No, I'm just kidding.
I was doing, at one point we were doing 3 or 4 a day, buying and selling 3 or 4 houses a day. When the market melted down here, I lost count a long time ago.
1,500, let's say.
Yeah.
That's safe to say. 200 something, $300 million you've done. You're established, you're loving what you do, you have a great lifestyle. One thing I really respect about you is you're a world-class dad and a world-class husband and son, not just world-class entrepreneur. So I love that. That sticks with me. What do you tell your 21-year-old self now that you've done all these deals and this success? When you look back and see the 21-year-old self maybe struggling, is there anything you can tell him that maybe you can share with millennials as well about how to kind of cut the learning curve in half?
I would tell my 21-year-old self a couple things. One, obviously find a mentor. You know, if you're doubting yourself or you have people around you that don't support you, just know that it is real. Planes do fly, and this stuff does work. It just might not be working for you at the moment. When I was 21, the challenge that I had is I needed to find passion, right? Most people struggle when they don't have passion for a niche or a thing. So my best advice to somebody young would be go get a job, and every 6 months quit that job, right? Just go get a job in a different niche, different industry every 6 months and try out different things. You know, being willing to take those risks while you're young.
Experiment, be curious.
Because when you have kids and you get to that place where taking those risks becomes a lot harder, that's when people start quitting and failing and settling and becoming average, and they find themselves at the end regretting and not being prepared for retirement, really looking back on their life and saying, dude, I messed this up big time.
That's huge. And if we could just lower your regret, we've done our job. I want to make sure people don't look in the mirror when they're 80 and say, wow, I could have done things differently. I could have gone for more. I could have reached my potential. So one action step, they're all motivated, they're fired up, they want to have the lifestyle you have, they want to go crush it, they want to make money, they want to have an impact, they want to build a legacy. What's the one thing they can do, like not tomorrow, but right after this video?
I would say go to your local bookstore and get as many books about the psychology of influencing others and devour them. Because it doesn't matter what industry or niche that you're in, if you understand what makes people tick, how to positively influence them, and you understand the psychology behind people, then you're going to have a very powerful capability to go into any relationship and build that relationship and really just create the opportunity that you're looking for, because that's the problem. Most people don't create the opportunity. They sit back on the sidelines and they wait and they watch things go by and they're too scared to get in the game.
And you're a value creator. One thing I talked about too is, do you want to talk about anything or promote? He has some amazing stuff that we could talk about later that he's not even really promoting. So follow him on all platforms. Instagram, he's crushing it. And I tell people, once you follow someone, if they don't provide value, then don't follow them. But this is a guy that's consistently promoting, posting on your story. And I didn't know he was a comedian as well. You're funny on your story too. So follow him on all platforms. But man, I appreciate it. Thanks for being a world-class dude.
First, at Clever Investor.
At Clever Investor.
On Instagram.
Much love, man. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thank you for coming in to Clever headquarters. You're welcome back anytime.
Appreciate it, man. I'm excited. This is an amazing spot. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Peter here. I want to thank you for checking out this video. Hope you guys got massive value. Any breakthroughs, please comment below and let me know. But I was just talking to Cody for like 45 minutes, and we were trying to figure out a way to over-deliver for you guys and give you guys something tactical that you guys can take with you. So we decided to give away his exclusive step-by-step blueprint that breaks down a very simple process on how to invest in real estate with no money down. So if you're serious about not just making money, but building a net worth, and not just getting into real estate, but crushing it and making money, this will give you a very big competitive advantage. So go to realestatesuccess.com/Peter. You can get the link below as well, but don't wait. This won't be around for long. And if you want to really learn how to break down the most proven way of flipping houses, you want to download this as soon as possible. Absolutely free. It's on us. We want to thank you for investing in yourself. And let me know what you think. realestatesuccess.com/Peter. We'll talk to you guys soon. See you.